Hi everyone, and welcome to this tutorial where I'm going to show you how you can update Passport's firmware using Envoy, our mobile companion app. Updating the firmware on your Passport is an important task to carry out periodically to ensure that you benefit from the latest features and security additions. Traditionally, updating Passport's firmware required users to fire up their computer and then head to our GitHub repository or documentation website to download the latest file, before then transferring that to an SD card that they can then apply to their Passport device. At Foundation, we still support this process for those advanced users who wish to verify the integrity and origin of their Passport's firmware. We also have separate documentation and video tutorials on carrying out exactly this process. But for the average user, these steps can be a stressful experience. With Envoy, we have simplified the firmware update process massively. All you'll need is your phone with Envoy installed, Passport, and the microSD card and adapter that was shipped with the device. Let's get started. So as you can see here, I have a Passport Batch 2 paired with Envoy, and in the bottom right hand corner of the device card, you can see that Envoy will be displaying the latest firmware version for my device. You'll also notice a small red dot next to that firmware, which indicates that this firmware version is ready to be applied to my device. So I'm just going to tap on that. And that's going to pop me into the firmware update flow. So Envoy says, Envoy allows you to update your Passport from your phone using the included microSD card adapter. And as I mentioned earlier, advanced users can tap that link to download and verify the firmware on their own computer. So next up, I'm going to insert the microSD card that came with Passport into the microSD card adapter that also came with the device. The device ships with two microSD card adapters, one for Apple phones and one for all other phones that operate with a USB-C port, and then press continue. Next up, we just need to allow Envoy access to the SD card. So you may need to navigate back to the top of the file system, and the SD card that ships with Passport should be called Passport SD. So I'm going to tap on that and then press done. So now that we've given permission for Envoy to write to the SD card, I'm going to tap continue. And that's it. In the background, Envoy has added the latest firmware file to our microSD card, ready to be applied to Passport. So I'm going to tap finished. As you'll notice now that we've gone through that flow, the red dot has now disappeared, indicating that we are up to date. So the final step is to apply that update to Passport. So I'm going to remove the SD card adapter and the SD card from my phone. Take the SD card out of the adapter and pop it into the top of my Passport. And then on Passport, I'm going to head to the left settings menu. I'm going to come down to firmware. And then I'm going to choose update firmware. Then I just need to select the latest firmware version, which in this case is v2.0.4. And then I press continue. Passport will ask me one last time if I want to update this firmware. I'm going to tap continue. And then Passport will work away and apply that update. Once Passport has successfully applied the firmware update, the device will reboot and you'll be asked to enter your PIN again to access the device. If for any reason you fail to complete the entire firmware update flow, all you need to do is tap on the firmware version number in the bottom right hand corner of the device card, and that will take you straight back into that flow that we have just gone through.